truth. This isn't just about the plan, it's about the leadership behind it, the ideas behind it. Now, Trump has said some controversial things, like the answer to ISIS is to surround the oil fields in Iraq with U.S. troops, and that he knows not many of those troops will die doing that. That Iran is actually funding ISIS, and that he is a better general than a general who helped take down Saddam. But what really raises eyebrows is that much of the basis for these views comes from what Donald Trump says he sees on TV. Is that true? See for yourself. So, you said something earlier about the poll, that you came out ahead on ISIS. That was a surprise to people. One of the reasons...
But not to me, because I talk about it a lot.
I understand. But one of the reasons it might have been surprising is something else you said, which is that you get a lot of your military analysis from watching television.
Well, see, I didn't exactly say. I watch your show, and I watch other shows. And you have one of the best generals, best every retired people.
We have great staff.
Frankly, probably better than I could get. In all fairness, you know, what do I know? I'm a man that made a great fortune. I'm going to make our country rich, and I'm going to make our country great. But you know what? You do, and get me the right generals, and I'll see 4 or 5 generals. I'll see all sorts of people. You'll even stoop down to the colonel stuff. You go all over the place. But you have a lot of different people, and so do other shows. And they're really good people. And I watch that, and I read the Times, and I read the Wall Street Journal, and I read lots of other newspapers.
But you need a team, don't you?
And I read magazines, especially Time Magazine this week because I'm undercover, okay, so I especially will read that. But I read magazines, and I read other things. Yeah, sure, I need a team. But, you know, by the time you get to a problem, you know, we're talking a long ways away, it's going to be changed. You're going to have a whole different set of, I mean, different countries will be run by different people, in all fairness.
But you'll have someone like your opponent, Jeb Bush, who says, I have a policy team, a staff. He doesn't have one.
He says he does, okay? Look. He can sit. He's a very low-energy person, Jeb Bush. He's got very low energy, which is okay. It's good if you want a little, you know, lead a long life. But he's a low-energy person. Perhaps he sits down all day long with a particular general. But you know what? I can get a lot of information in a very short time. Now, I've met with numerous people. I was given the biggest award by the Marines the other day, or just about one of the biggest civilian awards by the Marines the other day. I was with all of the Marines. I was with the head of the Joint, the new head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's a very impressive guy, at the Waldorf Astoria the other night. I was given, you know, one of their most distinguished awards, which was a great honor for me.
So you're saying they respect you?
I think they do. I mean, I think, well, I got the award from them, and they presented it to me, so I think they do. But when I say that, a lot of people thought that was very smart. You know, I watch all of the shows. You get the best people, you know, because even the generals want to be on television, right? Or they're retired generals in many cases. But I see a lot of good things by watching your show and other shows. And it's really nothing to be laughed at or scoffed at.
And if you took it to the next level, then you'd have your own policy advisors.
Sure, and you know what I do is when I watch, and without naming names, but when I watch your different shows, and your show in particular, you're very much into this, but when I watch the different shows, there are certain people that I really think are terrific that I can do better by watching and seeing and reading in the time. And then I know who I maybe want to speak to more so, because you're not going to meet with 400 different people. So I do learn a lot by watching, and I do learn a lot by reading the various newspapers and magazines and everything else, and I really find it to be a fascinating subject.
Today.
And some people agree with me on ISIS. Many of them agree with me on ISIS.
Probably reflected in the poll. Today, what do you think your chances of becoming president of the United States?
Well, I never like to talk about chances. I mean, I'm doing really well. I'm leading every poll. Your polls have been very, very strong. Fox just came out a couple of days ago. It was very similar to your poll, leading everything. I was most happy with your poll because my daughter Ivanka came up to me and my wife came up to me, Melania. And she knows how passionate I am about women, protecting women and taking care of. I cherish women. And they're so important. And when I watched Jeb Bush a week ago, not wanting to fund the women's health issues, and he wanted to not fund them. He said, well, I don't think we need to spend $500 billion. I don't think they need that. Well, I thought it was terrible. Now,
he says he only meant Planned Parenthood.
Well, I watched him make the statement. And then he went back and he was, you know, rewound up by his pollsters. And they said, oh, by the way, you made a mistake. So then he said he misspoke. But, you know, how do you misspeak about something like that? And my wife came up to me, my daughter Ivanka, who you know came up to me, and they said, you know, the one thing you should do is talk a little bit about women's health issues because you're so good on it, you know about it, and you cherish women. You want to protect women. and protect them in more than one way. That way, I'll protect them militarily, too, because we are such a target. This country is such a target because we're considered to be weak. We're a weak country. We're considered to be weak now. And I will protect women more than anybody.
You don't think we're considered the strongest country in the world militarily?
I think we are considered to be a country in decline, serious decline. You look at our education, we're number 25 in the world, and we spend far more than anybody else per student.
Would you let women fight in the military? In the Rangers and all the elite groups?
Yeah, I guess the answer is yes, because they're really into it, and some of them are really, really good.
Just had two graduate from the Rangers school?
Yeah, I would also speak to the generals, because I would want to hear that without a political bent. I'd want to hear the truth. I mean, you know, to the public, they say yes, 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 but I would want to hear without a political bent. But I'll tell you what, I know some women that are just, Ronda Rousey is an example, who likes me. Said,
lucky for you.
I'd take her. Hey, I'd take her up my side as a fighter. So the answer is yes, I would. I would also want to speak, however, to the military.
So you come on last week and you say, I don't have to talk about what I do with women. I can show what I do with women. We hire them, we put them in positions of excellence, and we pay them often better than their male counterparts if their work warrants it.
Better.
So your office then comes, they provide us what they call their proof of performance. Okay. Here are the jobs. It happens.
Good.
It's a private company. We don't want to out the people. You'll say, if I want to come in there.
Although they would be willing to do it.
That's right. I'll sign an NDA, a non-disclosure. So that goes out. You issue the challenge to the other candidates. The media kind of dismisses it. Yeah. What's your take on why?
Well, for the most part, the other candidates never hired anybody. I have thousands of people that work for me. I've had tens of thousands of people. I've created tens of thousands of jobs. That means I paid for education for all these people. I pay for health care far better than in Obamacare. I mean, I pay for really great. I take great care of my people. You know, I have a great company, as you probably noticed when I did my filings. So I'm very proud of my company. The problem with the other candidates, you know, they might have nobody working for them. They don't have people working for them. They've never created a job before. That's all I do. I'm a job-producing machine.
And that's a big part of his sell to you as to why he should be your next president. Now, we have asked candidates who are running against him and on the Democratic side to provide similar information, and we're waiting on most of it. Now, a couple of small fact things. Trump's claim of getting an award from the Marines, it's not what they say. According to them, quote, the U.S. Marine Corps has not presented any awards to any presidential candidates this year. It's not customary for the Marine Corps to make such presentations. So how do you explain it? Well, the award came from the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation. It is a charity, but it's not really affiliated with the Marines. Oh, and as for Ronda Rousey, she tells CNN, I'm not going to vote for Trump. I wouldn't trust the guy with running my country. Now, Donald Trump doesn't play. That's what's been said to us about him. Even when it comes to the Pope, he has a message for Il Papa when he comes to the U.S. next month about his criticisms of capitalism. And stay tuned for a conversation about his family, including his immigrant wife, why she would get to stay under Trump's immigration proposals. Are an American citizen, no matter where your parents came from, no matter how they got here. The biggest controversy set off by Donald Trump this week is his plan to say no more. Just being born here, not enough to become a citizen. Now, that's an idea that has little basis in law, but gets a lot of people riled up. So let's test his reasoning on immigration reform and also talk about one man who may not like these ideas very much, the Pope. Immigration. Right. You have people in the GOP worried that you're going to alienate, excuse the pun, the Hispanic population. You may have 28 million.
Chris, I have to do the right thing.
28 million voters.
You're right.
Pulling the birthright exception.
You're right.
That may be constitutionally dubious. You shouldn't be taking such an extreme position. What do you say?
I have to do the right thing. It's a time, you know, this country is so politically correct. Nobody wants to take a stance on anything. I was the one that brought up, and I took a lot of heat. You gave it to me, too. I mean, you were one of the leaders that first week and week and a half after I made the announcements, and a lot of people, including yourselves, they were not reading it the way I said it, and that is now fact. And I've been actually complimented by some of the people that, because I brought up the whole thing of illegal immigration. I'll bet you wouldn't even be asking this question right now had I not put that in my opening statement as a very important.
You definitely changed the nature of the dialogue, I'll give you that. And I certainly never would try to take you out of context. I try to take you at your word and put it in context.
But I'm saying many people did.
But you said, would you then go...
At some point, though, we have to... Look, at some point, we have to be honest with ourselves. It's called, you know, they like to use the word undocumented because it's more political. I don't use that word. They're illegal immigrants. They came over illegally. Some are wonderful people, and they've been here for a while. They got to go out.
But how do you do it in a practical way? You really think you can round up 11 million people?
And you know what? At some point, we're going to try getting them back, the good ones. We have a lot of good ones. Same time,
send a mixed message, though, Mr. Trump, because you say you're going to get rid of whole families, but then you say you want them back.
You got to go. They're illegal. We have a country. We have to have a border. We have to have a wall. Mexico will pay for the wall. I get a kick out of these guys that never negotiated. They can't negotiate for their own house.
They're going to pay for a $4 billion wall when you give them like $280 million a year. Why would they say yes?
Because they make a fortune with us. Our companies are moving into Mexico more than almost any other place right now. We're losing our industry. We're losing our business to Mexico. Their leaders are smart as hell. I mean, 300,000, I looked on your show, 300,000 births this year, illegals in our country. That means we picked up 300,000 people that are going to get Social Security. You have people on the border, and in one day they walk over, have a baby, and now all of a sudden we're supposed to pay the baby.
So the citizenship for those babies, you would revoke it now and retroactively?
Number one, the 14th Amendment is very questionable as to whether or not somebody can come over, have a baby, and immediately that baby is a citizen. Okay?
The court has pretty much said that it reads in immigrants there. This is a minority legal opinion you're talking about.
There are many people that totally feel that, because
they may want it that way.
Amending is too big a deal. It's going to take, it'll be 2 terms. I'd be in my 2nd term or my 8th year by the time, assuming everything went smoothly, because to amend the Constitution
takes a long time.
I believe,
especially on a very divisive issue.
I believe you can win it legally. Okay, I believe you can win it legally, and in any event, the parents have to leave. If the parents leave, unless they're very bad people, they're going to take their baby.
75% of the country feels that you should be trying to find a way to let people stay with conditions as opposed to kicking everybody out.
These people, the really good ones, and we have some great ones, we're going to try and expedite so they can come back, but they're going to come back legally. Let me tell you, when you look at Baltimore, when you look at Chicago, when you look at the crime that's going on, you have some of these people are illegal immigrants. I mean, they're illegal. They've come into the country. They're gang members. They're the toughest of the group. They're tough.
Some are bad, but you know most of them are coming in here to fight for the dream.
I'd get them out before I start building the wall, and I will start building that wall soon. I will get them out. The first thing I'm doing is getting the bad ones out, and they're gone, and they're not coming back either. I'm going to increase the hell out of the border in terms of the guards and Border Patrol, who I've gotten to know a lot of them when I went to the border recently, and they're fantastic. They want to be able to do their job. They're stopped from doing their job. Before I even start the wall, and I will start the wall very quickly, you know one of the things that's holding up the wall? Environmental impact statements. Can you believe this? Environmental impact statements.
I think it's got to be low on the list.
But that's one of the things. They can't get environmental permits. Can you believe this? Okay? Believe me, that's all I do is get permits.
What about going after the employers? And this isn't a cheap thing to come at you and say you're one of them.
That's true.
That's true. You have these employers.
Well, you know what? They've checked all of my buildings, and so far, with all of the jobs I have, Washington, everyone, nobody's found one.
Well, good for you.
Are you impressed?
Good for you. I was impressed the moment you sat down. What I'm saying is you have these employers, the agro companies, the other big manufacturers, they take them in because it's cheap labor. And they get away with it all the time. You never hear about a big case of them getting busted unless, you know, something happens and it goes away. Why doesn't anybody mention that as part of the solution?
First of all, we do have people that could do those jobs, and they're unemployed now in this country. Second of all, those good people that have been working with these companies, I want them to come back in. I want them to go out, but I want them to come back in legally so they can come back and they can work for those companies. I do want them to come back in.
But do you go after the employers who are doing it the wrong way?
Well, one way you find out who they are is through the employers. Absolutely.
All right, so let me ask you about the Pope. The Pope's coming. Do you want to meet him?
Well, I'm Protestant, but I have great respect for the Pope. I like the Pope. I actually like him. He's becoming very political. There's no question about it. But I like him. He seems like a pretty good guy.
So here's the moment. You meet the Pope. Pope Francis comes.
Right.
There's a translator there.
Right.
And he says, oh, Mr. Trump, this is very nice. And then he says, you know, I want to tell him something. The translator says to you, the Pope believes that capitalism can be a real avenue to greed. It can be really toxic and corrupt. And he's shaking his finger at you when he says it. What do you say in response to the Pope?
I'd say ISIS wants to get you. You know that ISIS wants to go in and take over the Vatican. You have heard that. You know that's a dream of theirs to go into Italy.
He talks to you about capitalism? You scare the Pope?
No, I'm going to have to scare the Pope because it's the other thing. There's only one. Look, the Pope, I hope, can only be scared by God.
Is the ceiling open over here right now?
The Pope, I hope, can only be scared by God. But the truth is, you know, if you look at what's going on, they better hope that capitalism works, because it's the only thing we have right now, and it's a great thing when it works properly. In our country, Chris, it has not been working properly.
That capitalism has.
It has not been working properly.
Do you take him seriously, what he says?
Excuse me. Between regulation, between all of the Dodd-Frank, between all of the different things that have been imposed, we aren't competitive like we used to be. We have to open up our country to great capitalism. And I don't think the Pope is opposed to capitalism, by the way. I've seen a lot of what he's opposed to, and I don't think the Pope is opposed to capitalism.
And if he is, Donald Trump will tell him ISIS is coming for you. Next, Donald Trump, the family man. How much did his wife and his kids want or not want him to make this run? And his potential first lady would be the first one ever born outside the U.S. Where's she been, by the way? And is her absence a sign that the immigrant doesn't agree with her husband's hardline stance? Ahead.
There is a reason Africa...
But it's often even harder on their loved ones. Is Donald Trump worried about his family? And where's his wife been? Here are his answers. The family. Your kids do great. Everybody says you raised them well. They're making their own paths. Have you thought about what it'll mean for your kids? Because you know it's a lot of... Even being Trump's kid is something.
Well, for my family generally. I mean,
but do you think about, man, this is going to be a lot on them?
I sat down with them. I told them, I said, you know, I don't know. This is months ago. And, you know,
but
actually,
now you're in a very different place.
My wife said something very interesting. She's my pollster, okay? She said, you know, if you actually announce, you're going to win. I said, what? She said, I see the reaction you have.
That's a supportive partner, by the way.
No, it's great. She's either the most wonderful person or she's very smart to say that. But she said, you know that if you actually announce, because nobody thinks you're going to run, but if you act, and that's really what's happened. Once I announced, people said, then they said, well, will he file this paper, and then that paper, and then will he file his financials? And then the financials turned out to be much bigger than anyone thought. You know, they thought I wouldn't want to file the financials. I'm very proud. I mean, what I did, I built an unbelievable company. But she said to me, you know that if you actually announce, you know you're going to win. I said, I don't know that. But the response has been pretty amazing.
But what do you think about that, though? Like you say, your wife, is she going to campaign for you? Is she ready to be first lady? Because she's been quiet on this so far.
She has been, and purposely. And you know, I haven't asked her to do anything. And she would certainly like to. Ivanka, you know very well. A lot of respect for you.
Ivanka could be president.
She's got a lot. She could be president. She'd be great. She's got a lot of respect for you. Got a lot of respect for your brother. Tremendous respect for your brother.
So her judgment's questionable. She's half right on that.
Now I'm starting to worry about her. She will be fantastic.
But you think you'll put Melania out there? You'll put your kids out there?
They want to be out there. They believe in what I'm saying. And I will say, from the women's health issue standpoint, Melania is unbelievable.
She would want to own something like that?
And Ivanka, I think she'd want to be involved in it. She feels very strongly, that's why when she saw Bush the other day knocking it, it really bothered her that that could happen.
One other thing about her. When you married her, everybody says the marriage is great. You're a testament to, you know, one of the marriages that seems to be working these days. When you got married, she became a citizen. She was here working legally.
Right.
She ever get mad at you about how you talk about immigrants and say, hey, I came over here on a visa. Now you want to get rid of people's visas?
She agrees with me because she went through a long process to become a citizen. It was very tough.
Oh,
and she went through a long process to become a citizen of this country. And she thinks it's a wonderful process to go through. And when she got it, she was very proud of it. You know, she came from Europe, and she was very, very proud of it. And she thinks it's a beautiful process when it works. Now, we can expedite. One of the things I really want to do, I want to take in really talented people, too. You know, in Silicon Valley, they can't get talent. I mean, no matter what you do, you can't get talent. And so I want to take in people from Europe, from Asia, from all over the world that have talent. If you graduate #1 in your class from Harvard or the Wharton School of Finance or Yale, and you're from another country, they throw you out of the country. You can't come back in. I don't want to do that. I want to keep these really talented people. Let them go to Silicon Valley. Let them go all over the place, because that's what we need. And I want people to come into the country, but I want them to come in legally.
I know you have a big appearance to get to in New Hampshire. You're going to be talking about the drug problem. Thank you for taking the time. You're always welcome to be talking about what matters.
Great honor. Thank you.
So there you have it, a different look at what Donald Trump does and does not say about the issues that matter to you. So did he help or hurt his cause? You tell us on social media. Use the hashtag TrumpOnCNN. Thanks for joining us.